October. Oh, hello everyone. I'm Joanna Penn and here with Orna Ross. Hello, Orna.
Hi, Joe, and hello everyone. Here we are again.
Here we are again, and we are here for the October 2016 Q&A for the Alliance of Independent Authors, and we have a whole load of questions this week. But first, as always, we like to give you a bit of an update because we don't just talk about this stuff, we actually do it. So, Orna, give us a bit of an update on what you've been up to and also whatever you have for the Alliance.
Yeah, so I have an ongoing project called the Go Creative Books, which have given me no end of creative trouble, which is nice and ironic, but actually not really ironic. It's how the whole thing goes. But I had, I suppose, a bit of an epiphany about 8 or 10 weeks ago, and it led to me starting what I'm calling the Go Creative Show, which is a weekly broadcast in video. I'm working with a videographer for it. That part hasn't emerged as yet, but also in audio as a podcast. And I'm absolutely loving it because for the first time, I'm somebody who does a lot of disparate things. You know, I mean, your oeuvre is fairly straightforward. On the one hand, you do your thrillers, and on the other hand, you do your author guides, and that's, you know, very easy for people to kind of get their heads around. But I do fiction, and I do nonfiction, and I do poetry, and I do ALLi guides, and and this other nonfiction series now. I was really all over the place for a while, not knowing where I was. So this show is allowing me to integrate it. So I'm really pleased. 4 episodes down, just introducing the regular contributors, and I will be also including a snippet from this Ask ALLi. It will go into the creative publishing segment. So it's kind of creative publishing, creative writing, creative living, all the different things that I do. So I'm really excited about it. And I suppose I'm just talking about it really to say to everybody, sometimes when you don't know what's going on, something else is afoot and you have to wait and you have to go with it. Because at times I did find this whole experience, you know, I think you always, because you're always stretching yourself, you always come to that point of what the hell am I doing? And more to the point, why am I doing this when I could just be curled up watching the television? So I'm now feeling very good. I'm over the hump and sort of on the down stretch. So that's great. That's on my own work side. And then on the, and I've been working on a script, and I have a producer who's interested. Yeah, so we'll say no more at the moment because it never goes anywhere in film. So I just thought, you know, I talk every time that I talk to somebody who says they're interested. And so we can see that actually there's about 300 times you hear that before anything actually happens. But I'm pleased with where I've got with the script. And again, it was another, I really had another creative imperative around that. I needed to do this script because it is the middle book of the trilogy. It kind of ties everything together, and I have just oodles and oodles of information about these real life characters that I'm writing about for ages as well. W.B. Yeats and his 2 muses, mother and daughter, Maud and Isolde. So there was so much material that to turn it into a cohesive story was very challenging, and the tightness of the script format really helped me to do that. So now the novel is structured and all I have to do is write it. And then it's all go at ALLi at the moment on 2 fronts. We have our Fringe coming up in October. So our theme this time is running an indie author business. So we're very much talking about, well, first of all, the psychology of success, and, you know, productivity, motivation, how you get yourself to keep going, but also really the bottom line stuff, business basics, tax, you know, some of that kind of stuff. Good day jobs for writers, anything essentially that talks, you know, how to avoid burnout, anything that relates to running an indie author business. As always, it will be 24 sessions over 24 hours. So it will be live to some of our members wherever they are in the world, and everybody can catch up with it afterwards. It's audio and video in the main. We have a couple of text posts, but it's mainly either audio or video. So mark the date. We also have a competition where we're asking people to nominate their best websites, you know, their favorite websites on the web, the best best websites for indie authors, and we will have a grand prize, which is shortly to be revealed by Jay. So we want to get a collection of the websites that are really, truly the most useful ones on the internet. So we all have our own personal favorites, but it's, you know, we know that there are other people out there doing great work as well. We want to give them a shout out, and we want to hear from you who you feel has really helped you, and, you know, pay them back by doing this. And there will be a prize both for the winning website and for the person who nominates them. So all go on that. The speakers are sending in their great material. You and CJ are going to do a great piece for us as well. And yeah, all systems go, really. And you, what are you up to?
Well, first of all, we should say that, sorry, I'm getting an echo. Are you hearing an echo?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, we should say that people can find that at indieauthorfringe.com, and I just checked the URL is working and it does redirect. And the dates, as you said, check the date, are at the 22nd of October.
Did I neglect that small detail? Well, I said a lot of other things.
But yeah, so yeah, 22nd of October, people can listen live, go to indieauthorfringe.com, and of course there are 3 over the year, and the next one in April will come up really fast, I'm sure. But yes, Frankfurt Book Fair, and you'll be talking about that, I'm sure, at the end of the next session. But I did want to come back on you there, because I think it's really important. So you've been writing for a very long time. Not that you're old.
I'm very, very old, but I've been writing for a very long
time. But you are, you know, wise and fearless leader. And what I think is important for everyone to realize is that you are still going through reinvention, reimagining, trying to figure out your own brand, changing your website, writing books that you've been writing for a long time, you know, having issues with creativity, and you're a creativity not guru. I know you probably hate the word, but you know, you're someone we look up to about creativity. So I think it's really important for people listening to hear you say those things. It certainly helps me. You know, I'm working on End of Days at the moment, Arcane Book 8, and I had that moment like about a week ago when I lost the plot. And, you know, I know what this means now, and probably a lot of people listening know what lost the plot means. It's like, oh, I'm at 40,000 words and I haven't got a clue how to finish this. What the hell?
It's not just a metaphor. It's actually a horrible thing.
Yeah, actually is true. And then you have to kind of go through the process of actually trying to work out what the hell your story was in the first place. But it's so important to hear people who are, you know, who've written a number of books and scripts and poems and everything, to hear that you're still working that out. So that's really good. And on that, in terms of reimagining, changing what we do, we are in this incredibly fast-paced world of indie publishing. You know, how things change online all the time. There are new tools, there are new opportunities. It can be very, very hard to know which ones to jump on and which ones to avoid. So for example, Facebook advertising, I resisted for so long, and then Mark Dawson really kind of pointed the way, and a lot of us have followed him in that path. And now I use, as I was saying to you before the call, I use Facebook advertising on top of a lot of the other things I do, and I feel it's a really important part of my business now. And I wanted to tell everybody about the thing that I have now just changed my process to do. Literally in the last 48 hours, I have adopted Vellum, which I believe is Mac only. Sorry, people on Windows. But it's basically ebook formatting software. And it is magic. And, you know, I'm giddy with how amazing it is. Now, I love Scrivener. I'm a total Scrivener addict. I'm not changing my writing process. I use Scrivener to plot, outline, well, ish, I don't really outline, but, you know, plan and write it, and all the way through to publication. But Scrivener is not, even though you can publish with it, it's not really designed for that. It's designed as writing software. So Vellum is designed for publishing ebooks only. although I think they are going to work on something for CreateSpace, for example. But basically, I'm just loving it. So I'm going through all my backlist and republishing all my ebooks and updating all the back matter which needed to be done. So I just wanted to point out that too, that I'm now changing my process, and I've been doing this since 2008. We all have to change up our processes when we learn something new. And I know you might be interested in trying this too, Orna.
I'm going to give it a go. Too many people have said how fabulous it is. So when it gets to that tipping point, and also I think it's interesting that you mentioned there updating your back matter, updating your front matter, or whatever else you're doing. That's always going on, no matter how much. Each time I do it, I try to make it, to proof it, so I won't have to do it too soon again. But things just keep changing, and I think that's a really important thing to realize, that we have to just do it. A lot of the time I talk to authors and they're waiting, they're waiting until this is right or that is right, or they're quite linear in their thinking about how they're going to make things happen, and they're worried if they don't sort out this bit in advance that they'll be biting off more than they can chew or whatever. The situation for us is we've all bitten off more than we can chew here. There is far more than we will ever be able to chew here going on, but you don't have to chew it all. You just need to do a bit at a time. And once you take that sort of attitude of just getting on with it and doing it, then it unfolds. I mean, like the show that I've just started doing, it's far from perfect. I mean, it's really, really not. And I know until I do about 20 shows, I'm not actually going to be really proud of it. I don't mind telling you guys, but I'm not going to be out there shouting about it or trying to get it any attention just yet. But because I've done this now so often, made a fool of myself, put stuff out that's not great, made it better, got there in the end, and finally had a product that I'm really proud of, I know that's my process. And I'd love to be nice and neat and to jump out there with it all perfect. If I waited for that, nothing would happen. So and it was the same with ALLi, when we started, didn't really know what we were doing. Do you remember that London Book Fair? All we knew was, yes, we want to do this, but beyond that, we didn't really know what way it was going to go, and it unfolds as you go. And it's I suppose that's what I'm trying to say, to leap in, to give it a go.
Fantastic. Okay, so in terms, and I would say every Friday on the selfpublishingadvice.org, Dan Holloway is doing a lovely roundup of the publishing news. So because I basically nick it every week, steal it. Nick means steal in British English, in case people listening don't know what I'm talking about. Every week I nick that, and I nick stuff from the Sell More Book Show. So
and put the two together.
Put the two together for my own podcast, and then if I find anything new, I think they nick it from me too. So these are important things. But there was one article from Jane Friedman, who of course is amazing. Jane did a roundup of the publishing industry kind of status update of 2016, and I just wanted to bring this up because there have been a number of articles talking about traditional publishing down in terms of their sales and income, and also talking about the kind of lacking a blockbuster novel, like Gone Girl or The Girl on the Train, Harry Potter, these are the things, or colouring books, these things that had kept things buoyed up. And it was interesting because the Mike Shatskin, who's a publishing industry guy, talked about how the problem with the higher ebook prices with new authors, and this is a big problem we see, of course, with new authors who get traditional publishing deals. They're putting out their books at like $12.99, £9.99, and who's going to take a chance on that? So I found that very interesting. Of course, Barnes & Noble, we've seen some issues. Amazon setting up new bookstores, new physical bookstores. Any thoughts, Orna, on some of the changes in publishing, and also maybe comment on some of the other services that are popping up and the ALLi services list, for example?
Yeah, so many thoughts about some of the things you're talking about there and that Jane raised in her piece. Well, I think the most interesting and the one that will have the longest impact is Amazon getting into stores. I think this is huge because, we've been talking all the way along about this kind of, no matter what way, even when you didn't want to be divisive about it, and we never do, because actually all of these things feed into reading and to writing. There has been this sort of thing of the idea of the store disappearing at the expense of digital, maybe, or just Amazon as a company versus the rest, and all that sort of thing going on. And the death of the local bookstore, whatever side you take on this, and you don't have to take any at all, but whatever side you do take on it, the death of the local bookstore is a tragedy for anybody who reads or writes, and for our communities. Those cultural spaces are just so important, that there are books that are widely available, and in loads of countries we're losing libraries as well. So here comes Amazon again, breathtakingly. You just have to, it's so clever, so very well done. Their stores are really small. They're going in at that local level. They're device driven. You have to actually use your device to download what's in the shop. That's where you find out how much it costs and so on.
Yeah. And buy with it as well. I think you have to pay with your app.
Yeah, it's just so very, very clever. I can't wait to actually get into one. I'm going to the US after Christmas, and I'm just dying to actually, have the experience. So I think that's the thing that we're seeing that's going to have the longest impact by far. Another trend that I was really pleased about, I'm not sure if Jane mentions it in her roundup, but I can't remember exactly where I came across it, but that author solutions companies, which the regular listeners will know, are services that we have a lot of concerns about, that their profits are falling, and that whole model of assisted, they are vanity publishers in the old sense of that word, which is, they don't really have, and they're not alone. There are a number of services that they're not really that interested in books or authors. They're not really in that space. They're just about, it's a business model for them. It's hard sales. They have big rooms full of salespeople who are ringing up potential authors and putting a lot of upselling and so on and so forth. And there's lots of things. We've been talking about them for a very long time. But what we didn't have was a list of all the different services and a sort of an analysis of them, or a rating, a quick rating, if you like, because we were doing our watchdog reports, which was fine, but we can only do so many because our resources are limited. So John Doppler, who heads up our watchdog desk now, and is absolutely just so devoted and so dedicated in this arena. He has spent ages putting together. It's not finished yet, but it is out there now. And again, like we were talking about, will be a work in progress. And it rates the various services, partner member, recommended, caution, and then watchdog advisory. And so we're able to put the various services down. And the problem with Author Solutions, for example, or lots of these companies, is they're known by one name, but actually they set up lots and lots of different imprints. So you meet them not as Author Solutions, you maybe meet them as Book Tango or Partridge or Archway, the Simon & Schuster imprint. So there'll just be a list. You come to a service, you can go to the ratings, and you can just look, it's in alphabetical order, and see, is my list there? Is it recommended? Is it a partner member has been vetted, it's thoroughly been rated on 20 different criteria. Recommended is somebody who is pretty much doing, what we would hope and expect people to be doing in an ethical manner. Not recommended, sometimes that's somebody either who doesn't know what they should be doing, because we get that an awful lot, but they're not actually they're not, I have to be careful here actually.
Yeah. But well, anyway, I think people get the idea.
Yes, and then there's watchdog advisory, which is where we would say just, be careful, buyer beware. So we're really pleased that that's there. We're hoping again you'll all feed into it. If there's a service, we're just as much about recommending great services as we are about anything else. So if there's a service that you use that you're really, really happy with, we'd really like to include it, and vice versa. If you've had problems, we want to hear about that too. So and hats off, as I said, to John. He's really just incredible in terms of his devotion to this area. It's very time-consuming work, and he is really measured, very judicious, gives everybody a fair chance. But if he feels there's a problem, he knows how to say so.
Yeah, and for everybody, that is at selfpublishingadvice.org, and it's under the Watchdog tab, service ratings. So definitely go there. I will be sharing that link everywhere. And when I get pitched by companies, which is quite a lot, the first thing I would do is go and ask John Doppler. So now I'll be able to do that, look at that list. So that's really good. Okay, so let's get into some of the questions. Anita says, with regard to gaining momentum, is there a good time interval for release of books in a series? So this is a great question, and I think I'm just about I'm writing book 8 in a series. Now, I think this question has two answers. One answer is the in order to do it the best way possible and do the everybody thinks that there is a 30-day, a 60-day, and a 90-day drop-off in the Amazon algorithm. So if you can have releases that are within these 30, 60, 90-day periods, then good on you, and you're more likely to get momentum. However, unless you are an author who is actually releasing books on that schedule, it can be very hard. And, I would caution people that is not a sustainable way to continue to make a living and enjoy yourself. We've seen a lot of people burning out, particularly in the romance space. And I think that a better way, like for example, many people, like Orna says to me that I write fast. Actually, this year, and we're in the end of September, I've released one fiction, Destroyer of Worlds, which I wrote in January and released in April. And then I wrote one nonfiction, The Successful Author Mindset, which is really short. And I'm now writing my second novel, which actually this year, which won't be out until January. So effectively this year, I will only have written one fiction, one nonfiction. This is not a fast production schedule. And I would like to...
slow year. In fairness.
Yeah, but I've been working really hard on a ton of stuff. But equally, sure, if these are 2 in a series, if I could have done them 90 days apart, then maybe I should. But I also fully believe in this as a life, not a lifestyle because it's my business too, but this is my life too. And I also want to write the best book I can. I want to, like this book was meant to come out. The pre-order's still up actually for December, and I'm changing it to January because I'm going away. I need a break. And I'm moving it because we have to look after ourselves and we have to look after our readers. So that's why I am moving my schedule, and I am not doing a 90-day drop off. However, I'm not criticizing anybody who does. So that would be my 2 answers. Definitely within a 30, 60 or 90 day, or whenever the book is ready. Any comments, Orna?
No, I think that's exactly right. And it's going to vary for different people, and it's going to vary depending on the books as well. If you can get a lot of stuff written, up front and have the patience to then kind of slowly release it over a schedule. I tried to do this about a year ago. It didn't work for me. It had the opposite effect. It was terrible, and I stopped enjoying myself. So that was the end of that. But, if you can, I know I did hear about a very interesting experiment with an author who just started in the romance space, which is probably one of the easier spaces to succeed in, but still highly competitive. So not either in another way. It's just the romance authors eat books and they can't have enough of them. And a lot of the romance authors have to write very quickly. So I know somebody who did kind of write a lot in advance and had 6 books. She was working with a digital marketeer, and they together over a period of 18 months, they created her basically, and she's now doing extremely well. But she held off under his tight reign. She held off. She wrote loads and loads. I can't remember exactly how many, but I think it might have been 8 books before she released the first one, which takes just incredible discipline. And,
yeah, I don't have the patience for that at all. Could not do that. So yeah, I mean, it's much of a muchness. You have to decide for yourself, like all of this indie stuff. Okay, so 3 questions about Ingram Spark and ISBNs, which we often get, and we always have to cover this Yeah, every month. So Orna always has to answer this one. So I'll just round the questions up. So with Ingram Spark, is there an advantage to using both CreateSpace and Ingram Spark? Why does one offer something the other one doesn't? Should you purchase your own ISBN numbers even if the first book is an ebook? And what if someone submits a PDF to Ingram, do they generate an EPUB? Should you use Ingram Spark for ebooks? So 3 kind of you go on those.
Okay, so first of all, yes. Again, optimal advice is that you would use both CreateSpace and Ingram Spark. And the reason for that is that Amazon actually uses Ingram for its extended distribution. So it creates various problems in the system. The cleanest and clearest way to do it is to use use CreateSpace for the Amazon ecosystem and use Ingram Spark for extended distribution. That's the cleanest way. It also means that your book is available for bookstores to order through Ingram. There are still a lot of bookstores that don't deal with CreateSpace. They just, for various reasons. So our advice is to use both in that way. And it's very, very simple. It just means when you go to Amazon, when it comes to extended distribution on CreateSpace, you say no. And when you're uploading your book to Ingram Spark and you're choosing your suppliers, just say no to Amazon. You can use Ingram for ebook only, and though here in the UK and in the US, we tend to think of Ingram as our print supplier because we are coming down with good options for ebooks. For distributors, we can use Draft Digital and various others. A lot of people appreciate being able to do their print book and their ebook on one platform, and that's a reason why people might do that. And there are countries where Ingram Spark is your best option for ebook distribution as well as print. The reason you mightn't choose Ingram for ebook is that the payout is not as good as it would be if you go direct. So Ingram is a distributor like Draft Digital or Publish Drive and a number of other people who are springing up at the moment, distributing to various countries where Amazon don't go or Kobo don't go or wherever. So because they're a distributor, they're also taking an extra cut. So for that reason, you might not do it. And then the third question about PDF, no, PDFs don't make for good ebooks. To get a properly formatted ebook, you have to put it into .mobi format for Kindle or .epub for everybody else. So you need to find you need to separately format it for E. It won't transfer well. PDF is a fixed format. And ebooks are, what do they call it? I've forgotten the name for it. Flow format, I think. And so don't use your PDF or your Word document. It can be done with Word, but it generally leads to a fairly messy experience. So if you have a Mac, use Vellum, apparently. You can use Scrivener. It does format a good basic text. It's not beautiful unless you're very skilled with Scrivener, and it's not the easiest software to find your way around. We have a list of formatters on the partner members who have been vetted in the member website as well. So you can get some people who will do it for you really at quite low cost when you think of the amount of time that you spend trying to do it. So unless you are like Joanna and you actually enjoy formatting, perhaps that might be a good option for you, but no to the PDF.
I have never enjoyed formatting before, but I do now. So this is very good. And as ever, I always have to bring my own opinion to Orna has the official ALLi opinion, but I only use CreateSpace. I do not use ISBNs. You do not have to buy your own ISBNs to run a business as an indie author, and you can just use CreateSpace. And mainly the reason is I don't focus on print as a major part of my business model. It's about 7% of my book sales income is print, and I personally read digitally. So I'm not someone who cares enough about print to use Ingram and go through that. But the official ALLi view is yes, use Ingram, and yes, buy your own ISBNs. So, do you recommend buying them only if you're publishing? I mean, if you are only publishing ebooks, or for print too?
As you say, the official ALLi line is to buy an ISBN for each format that you issue. And the reason for doing that, and absolutely, I know that a lot of people disagree with this, and that's absolutely fine. But we feel on balance that the person who owns the ISBN is the publisher. So is the publisher of record, and is the publisher as far as everybody else is concerned. So when it comes to that book in that format, so if a library wanted to order your ebook and you use the CreateSpace ISBN, then first of all, they may not take it because, as I said, there's this whole there's a lot of literary politics around Amazon's role within the publishing industry and the writing world. But secondly, they go to CreateSpace for it, because actually CreateSpace is the publisher of record, not you. And we just feel that for the minimal expense involved, and because this industry does change so fast, and who knows where things will be in 20 years, as indies, owning our own ISBNs is a measure of that. You know, it makes you the publisher. No trade publisher would for a second consider letting some third party own the ISBNs to their books. The ISBN, it's International Book Standard Numbering. So it tells people, this is your ebook, this is your print on demand book, this is your hardback. You need a different one for each format. And yes, that would include E.
Yeah. Whereas I think in 20 years, they'll all be gone.
You're right.
Okay. All right. So Tom, good question from Tom, says, I'm finding it hard to get any writing done with so many tasks. Any tips for that? I have a tip. If you are someone who watches the video, I'm holding up my productivity device here, which is the old school Filofax. I actually bought that with my first paycheck and my first job after university, and I still use it. I am a schedule junkie. I'm an absolute nutter for scheduling, and I schedule months in advance. And this morning, I had in my diary 8 a.m. writing at cafe. And then at 10:45, I went to a yoga class. So I knew that I had these 2 hours before yoga to write. So I actually put a meeting in my diary to go and write. Tomorrow I have 9 till 11:30 writing, and I've actually booked a office in a co-working space to get me away from my computer. Now, again, if you have a video, Orna has all these desks set up, but I've really got one desk space, so I get out of the house and I go down to this co-working space, or I go to a cafe or whatever. And I find when I'm using my phone for the mobile hotspot, it really helps to not jump on the internet. Now, I do research as I write, so I do often jump on the phone and find that out, but I don't use social media, I don't use email, I don't, all of that type of thing. So that is my number one productivity tip. It's as you would schedule a dinner with your friends, as you would schedule a business meeting in your day job, as you schedule your children's birthday parties, which I know you do, as you schedule your gym appointments for your gym class, schedule your writing. And when you're in that time, then you write. That's my tip.
Yeah, it is that simple. It really is. Transferring it into time, not just a wish to do it, or not just I'm going to do it, or this is what I want to do, or whatever, but actually turning it into time has to happen at some level. So even if you're not a Filofax person, it might be as simple, and this works for me because I'm not a very Filofax kind of person, though I do have to schedule things, and I will often schedule writing, or I'll decide that I am, even though I do have my 3 desks for 3 different kinds of engagement, I also need to get out of these 4 walls, and I often go to a cafe, and I actually have the Stables Cafe in Gladstone Park around the corner, which has no Wi-Fi. which must be the last cafe on earth with no Wi-Fi. So if I have a certain kind of thing to do, and I know I'm not, you know, you can actually do without research sometimes in a session. You can just go and just, if I know that that's the kind of writing I need to do, I go up there. So, and I have various kind of cafes for different vibes, you know, feeling different ways. And I'll also have, if the head just won't settle, I have some music that takes it down. So it's really important to me to use that writing time, and I write every day. Write very slowly. I'm not a fast writer at all. Sentence structure matters to me. Language matters to me. I think it was Oscar Wilde said, I spent the morning taking a comma out and I spent the afternoon putting it back in. Not quite that bad, but I can get very, you know, lost in the whole technique of it. And that's part of the joy of it for me, but you must turn it into time. So what I do is I write first, because I have a very busy, people-driven day, and everybody else's agenda can take over. You don't always know what the day is going to bring, but I do know that I will write first before I do anything else. And so, you know, generally speaking, I mean, I break it on occasions, but that's my driver, is to try and write, not to look at any email, not to look at the phone, not to think about anything, to wake up, hold that imaginative kind of space that is at its highest, you know, when you've just woken, not to read the paper, not to talk to anybody, and go straight into the writing space works very well for me. When I'm in flow, that's the way I'm doing it. I'm not doing it at the moment, but when because I've been setting up the show and everything like that, but I'm going to get deep now into some writing, and I absolutely have to do it that way. So my short tip would be, do it first if you can. And the busier you are, the more important that is. So if you have a full-time job or whatever, possibly the morning is the only time you're going to be able to do it, because by the time you get to the evening and all the chores and everything, it may have fallen apart. Or you might be one of those people that when everybody else has gone to bed, you know, it works for you. It doesn't matter when it is, but you need to know when it is and you need to do it.
Yep. Simple, but not easy. Talking about music, DD says, I write music-based fiction, or many books in my series follow singers or songwriters and include lyrics I've written. I want to bring other known titles and songwriters, singers into the storyline. Is it legal to do this? I want to mention songs that may be heard on the radio, or songs my characters may cover that have been recorded in reality. Can I mention songs and their artists or songwriters? So Helen Sedgwick, Sedwick. Helen has the Self-Publishers Legal Handbook, which is the #1 thing everybody should be reading when they have questions about what is legal. But generally, I believe that song lyrics are a big issue, as in, because copyright is a certain percentage, you know, fair use is a certain percentage of the text. Obviously songs are very short, so unless you used one word, which, you know, and no one can copyright one word, then, you know, you shouldn't use those. However, I'm interested, Orna, in using the name.
Titles are fine.
But yeah,
there's no
titles or the name. The name of the name
of the person, as long as you're not trying, as long as you don't diss their reputation, which could land you in a libel issue, which is something completely different. But actually just the use of the name, even if they're the Rolling Stones or Mick Jagger or whomever, you know, that's fine. Names and titles, there's no copyright in that. Copyright is in the expression of an idea. That's what's being protected by copyright. Whereas somebody's name or the song title, they're facts. There's no expression there to be ripped off. So it's fine. And that's why you will sometimes see books with the same title, because if there was copyright in the title, they couldn't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to look at it. I mean, there's so many, you know, like, there's just so many song titles that we would use in conversation that there's no way these things can be copyrighted. Although, of course, in Germany, book titles are copyrighted, which makes it hard. It's going to make it harder and harder and harder and harder to publish a book in Germany until they change that rule.
I forgot about that. I always forget that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So one of my books had to be, it's Desecration dash Verletzung, and you see that a lot now. You see the English hyphenated with a German word because it's the only way they can come up with new book titles in German. It's just crazy. They have to change that law. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so anyway, Helen Sedgwick, the Self-Publisher's Legal Handbook. Okay, so David says, I've bitten the bullet, commissioned an audio version of my first book. What advice do you have about going wide or exclusive with Audible, bearing in mind different royalty rates and contract terms? Okay, so I have just yesterday, Destroyer of Worlds is out in audio through ACX. So what I'm doing right now, I have my fiction going through ACX. ACX.com is only available to American and English authors at the moment. Apologies everyone else. And there are exclusive rules around it, 7 years exclusive. If you go exclusive, you get a better royalty rate. However, with my non-fiction, I am recording myself and selling direct from my own website, which I think can only be done if you have traffic to your website and, say, a podcast where you can advertise it, as I do. So I think audio for fiction, I'm not going to record that myself, so I'm going to work with a narrator. Professional authors would say pay, and I consider myself a professional, but I've gone with a royalty split deal because one, I like that with another creative. Like, I actually like doing a royalty split deal because I feel that they're invested in marketing. Whereas if you pay up front per finished hour, why the hell should they care how the book performs? So I like it for that reason, but many bigger name authors would say, no, you should always pay up front. You should always keep the rights. What I will say is from now on, I do not want to be exclusive to ACX. I would rather take a lower royalty rate and be non-exclusive, and then also sell direct as well as selling on other platforms. So that's what I'm going to be doing going forward, will be to do that, to get a lower royalty rate.
Interesting. Audio is interesting because about 18 months, 2 years ago, it seemed great. And, people were getting much higher rates for their audiobooks and so on. But I think a lot of authors have invested quite a bit in audio and found that they haven't made their return. It's expensive, it's one part of it, but that's only a small part of it. It's another whole marketing jag, essentially. It seems that audio markets audio well. So if you don't have any audio in your output and you just have an audiobook and you're not that well known, hungry, that's fine. But for the average author, especially somebody starting out, audio is, we were kind of saying at one point maybe ebook first, audio second, print third. But returns on audio are falling since Wispinet came in, which is where the ebook and the audiobook are integrated. It's a fantastic service for the reader. It essentially means that the ebook will pick up where you stop listening to your audio and vice versa. And so there's no break in the story for the reader. And that is leading people to buy. This is all on Amazon, leading people to buy the audiobook as well, who might not otherwise buy audio. So the audio market is definitely growing, but the financial return to the author is definitely falling. And unless you have, it's like every book, you do need a marketing plan. You do need some idea of how are people going to know I have this book, and how am I going to convince them that they should actually buy it. So I think too often maybe authors are kind of doing audio because they feel they should, and it's nice and tidy as well, and it's lovely to have ebook, print book, audio and all of that, but without a plan. There must be strategy around it, in short.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned marketing plan. Ralph says, how long before you publish should you start your marketing plan? And, Ralph, I would have to come clean and say I published plenty of books before having any marketing plan. So again, this will be to do with A, your personality type, and B, your, how long term you're doing this. So for example, as I said earlier, I consider this to be my life. So I don't have a marketing plan so much around one book as just my whole brand. So for example, having a perma-free book, regularly applying for BookBub things, doing Facebook ads to get people on my email list, doing interviews and podcasts and all of this type of thing, social media. I do all of these as an ongoing thing. Now, you can obviously do a marketing plan for one particular book and one particular launch, but your first book is never going to be massive. Your first book is your first book, but it feels massive beforehand. So again, there's two answers. As long as you like before you publish, you can start your marketing plan, especially if you do nonfiction. For example, you could start a blog. I just put out how to write a novel course, and I've been running the Creative Pen for 8 years, a long time. And so I've been building an email list for that long, which meant that when I launch it, it works. Most people don't have an email list when they put their first book out, but of course you could start building one. So there's basically, again, there's tons of stuff you could do. And a lot of people will say, oh, 6 months, a year. But again, I put a book out without worrying about that. And then you can build it up over time. So I would say the book should be the focus, and great if you can do some stuff beforehand. But again, if it's fiction, I didn't have a clue about my fiction stuff until book 5. So yeah, let's just all chill out a bit, basically. But it might be because I'm at the end of my glass of wine.
I think it is. I think you can, as you're working on your book, get together some kind of an author website and own your domain. So I think, Joanna, you feel you didn't have a marketing plan, but you are kind of a marketeer by nature. You don't even realize you're doing a lot of things. So you would have had a website, for example.
No, I didn't. I didn't. Before I did fiction, I think that, I was even publishing under a different name. I published under Joanna Penn. I only changed my brand and built a website at like sort of book 4 or something. Okay. So I think there's such an emphasis on this that it makes everyone really stressed, and then they forget to focus on the book. Well,
I certainly wouldn't advocate that, obviously. The book, number one, and if you only have time for the book, then that's it. But if you do have any other time and on a daily basis writing a book, and particularly your first book when you're learning how to write, fiction or nonfiction, there's only so many hours a day you can write. So if you have time, I think it definitely is worth getting together some sort of a website, even just to say the book is coming. Make it in your name, not in the name of the book, which a lot of first-time authors make the mistake. They make their Facebook page or their website, they give it the name of the book rather than their author name. Use your author name for it, and have some way of collecting emails. Now, I know you haven't written your book yet, so what can you give? But you can actually even just invite people to sign up. Some people will. Just begin that process of getting to collect emails. Even if you only do that gives you something to work on when the book actually comes out, because it is actually quite disheartening when you do all the work writing a great book and then do all the work of publishing it, producing it well, making a nice book, to put it out there and have no real way of anybody knowing or caring it or whatever. So if you've done a little bit of build up while you're writing, I think that's to your advantage. And if there's any kind of social media that you enjoy, just go on there and be social and make some friends, and not necessarily author friends. If you can locate hashtags and things that are related to the subjects that your book is about, and that applies whether it's fiction or nonfiction, just something in there that you're interested in. You wouldn't be writing a book about it if you weren't interested. Find people online who are also interested in that, so that when the book comes, you have people who like the ideas that are embedded in the book. None of that should take up more than 15 minutes a day or less, even, or do it sporadically. It doesn't have to be done, as Joanna said, don't get yourself all stressed out about rigorous marketing, because first book, second book, third book, really it's all about getting the books out, getting the building your name, building your own process, building your routine, building your creative habit. All those things are much more important at that stage than marketing. But if you can do a little bit of marketing, it can actually be a bit of light relief. And if you think about your social media in terms of your books, not just your first book, but who you want to be as a writer, who you want to be. I know, you know, the marketing word is brand. So if you want to think about yourself as a brand, but for some authors that's very off-putting. If you think about what you're offering, if you think about, you know, what your book sets out to do, and you talk in your social media from that sort of space and use your social to kind of reflect what your book is about. All of that's very good preparation and can carry you into book 2 and book 3. And then there's no end of tools. It's much easier than when Joanna set out in 2008, when the tools were all pretty new, and half them, you know, they didn't even reliably work sometimes, and then they changed a lot. I think the whole space has settled, and in that sense it's easier to find your tools, and to find your way of setting your platform up is a lot easier than it was. But of course it's much more difficult in the sense that there are a lot more authors doing what you're trying to do, so you need to get a sense of why you are writing, who you're writing for, the value that's embedded in your books, and how you're going to convey that. That's essentially what marketing is.
Right. Some quick questions. Helen says, I don't have time to write and schedule my own Facebook ads. Can you recommend someone to do this for me? I would basically say, no, we can't recommend anyone who can do your Facebook ads for you. There are lots of companies who will do your marketing for you. But I found, like, just spend a bit of time learning how to do it and do it yourself, or don't bother, because you could end up spending a ton of money for very little return. Facebook ads for books are very hard because the margin is so small. This is a very small margin business. It's ridiculous how small the margins can be. So you need to be very careful with that. And like Orna was just saying about marketing stuff, if you're going to be a successful indie author, or in fact a successful author these days, however you publish, you actually have to understand a bit about marketing. And so it has to be part of what you learn. You learn to write a book, you learn to do some marketing, you learn to run a business, if this is what you want to do. So I would say, no, I can't recommend anyone. I
agree with that. And I think it is that kind of thing, you know, where an author hears, oh, everybody's doing Facebook ads. Oh, I don't have time to do that. Oh, I better get somebody to do it for me. And it won't work. There isn't enough, as Joanna said, the margin's too small. There isn't enough money in books for you to pay a digital marketeer to market your books for 99.99% of authors. So if you want to do Facebook ads, and actually you can succeed without them, they are you know,
optional, like all marketing.
Yes, it's you know, like all marketing, there are lots of different ways to do it, but if you want to do it, then you're going to have to take the time. And listen, I know I've been talking about doing Facebook ads for ages, and I've done it sporadically, and it worked well on a high value product, but I'm not confident enough yet to do it for my ebooks. I know I have to sit down and get stuck in there, and that kind of thing doesn't come easily to me. So I keep putting that one on the long finger, but I think it's better not to do it until I'm ready to do it properly than to half do it and try it, because it's too easy to waste money and find another way for the moment.
Grace says, what is your advice to a first-time author with one book hitting the market in the next few months? Does KDP Select make sense as a strategy, or does that set up KU reader expectation that your remaining books will be free? Okay, so my recommendation is, if you have 3 books or fewer, use KDP Select in a series. Use KDP Select. I love co-wrote, I love iBooks, but it's very hard to get noticed on any other platform without other tools. And when you're just starting out, then KDP Select, I think, is the best way. It's going to get you the most bang for your buck. So yes, first time authors with one book, go KDP Select. Is that okay advice?
Yeah, no, I think that is right.
Okay, cool. Abby, what is the best way to make a review ebook copy of your book from a Word document, Vellum, or Scrivener, or is it Caliber? There's a ton. Or the Alliance of Independent Authors has a formatter list. of people you can find out from. And then I would also personally recommend BookFunnel for delivering that document. I used to have a download page and just too many emails, painful emails. Bookfunnel.com, it's a very reasonable service, will deliver, and they might even help you with your formatting. I don't know. That's not a quote, but amazing. Have taken so much stress off of me and emails from me. Great. You don't have any comments on that?
Yeah, I love BookFunnel. I kiss those guys' feet.
Awesome. We have 5 minutes left and 2 more questions.
Go.
Pamela says, what are some of the innovative ways indie authors of YA are attracting young readers? Are those authors also targeting adults? And if so, what is the strategy? My opinion, I don't write YA. My opinion is that the vast majority of YA readers are adults, as we saw in Twilight, Hunger Games crossover, even Harry Potter crossover. So I would say stick with marketing to adults who like books like Hunger Games or whatever, or have a look at Wattpad, wattpad.com, which has a massive younger audience. If you do want younger demographic, Instagram, Snapchat and Wattpad. Otherwise, aim for adults on whatever you like marketing on. And okay, so I'm going to give this last one to Orna. Patrick says, I have an edited manuscript. I plan to self-publish. What is the next step to get me from computer to bookstore? Sorry, that's a massive question. So Patrick has an edited manuscript. What should he do next?
Well, you need a book cover. I recommend that you go to selfpublishingadvice.org, and all the things you need to do to publish a book is there. So it starts with the editorial process. It seems like you have that covered. Then it's design, then it is production, then it is distribution, then it is marketing, then it is promotion, and then it is right sales, in that order. And there are all sorts of pillar posts there, and there are over 1,200 posts now on the website. And what we've done is, in the center there, the various categories are there, and you can just go into the key posts. Take a look at self-publishing advice. Choosing how to choose a self-publishing service, because there's more in there also about the actual stages that you go through. Joanna's books cannot be highly recommended enough. They will also teach you, how to self-publish a book and so on, how to market a book, blah, blah, blah. So there's lots and lots of advice out there, but start there. Start with selfpublishingadvice.org, and you could go from there.
Yeah, and I have a free book, Successful Self-Publishing, which is on all platforms. It's free. And until Orna puts her own out, which we're still waiting for, how I self-publish. But this is what's so great. I mean, we all do things a bit differently, but the process, you have to get it out somehow. Now, some people might choose Draft to Digital to put everything out there. They're amazing. I use them for things like Nook. Oh, that was big news this month. I wanted to announce that. Well, it's not big news, but I felt it was important. Sainsbury's, when Nook shut down in the UK, they gave their readers to Sainsbury's, and I was devastated because they should have given them to Kobo. Sainsbury's has just shut down and given their readers to Kobo, or presumably sold them, I don't know. But I was so pleased about that, because Kobo actually cares about readers. Sainsbury's couldn't give a monkeys.
Sainsbury's is a supermarket.
It's a supermarket. They sell carrots. Anyway, so it is, we're almost on the hour. So Orna, coming month, what is happening with you coming month?
Frankfurt Book Fair, October 22nd. See you here for Fringe online, and looking forward to that. And you're off on all sorts of travels.
Yes, I'm speaking in Denver in the USA, my first time in Denver. Then I'm going to Oregon to a masterclass, which I'm very excited about. Meeting a lot of authors who've been in the business 40 years, 30, 40 years, and who are now kind of hybrids, who really understand how to have longevity in the business, which is something I'm very interested in. Then I'm going to Israel on a book research trip / holiday. So I'm going to Armageddon, which is one of my favorite places in the world. Jerusalem also, more Jerusalem than Armageddon, obviously. But all of these things will be going into end of days. So I'm very excited about that. Now you're going to have a guest person that's not me end of next month, aren't you?
Yes, a surprise guest. You'll have to tune in to find out who it is.
Oh, right. So you don't know who it is, basically.
No, not yet.
You've forgotten that I'm not here. But that will be on, I believe, it will be on Tuesday, the 25th of October. Would that be right, Orna?
That sounds right. Yeah. And then if any of you are in London in November, we're both doing a live day, a full day workshopping how to, Joanna was talking about it earlier, how to have a life and make a living from your writing. So details of that are on, do you have?
They are at thecreativepenn.com/NOV16, NOV16. That will take you a short link to Eventbrite. But yeah, very excited to do that. Our first, I guess, private event that we're doing together, which will be fun.
Yeah, it'll be great to work with people more closely with a small group and really get drilled down into all these issues and actually send people away knowing what to do. I'm really looking forward to it.
Super. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And Orna, will see you next month. I'll see you the month after. Happy writing.
Bye.